Hi, my name is James Hescock. I'm a UC Tyler alumnus, and I published an independent newsletter for students called Patriot Weekly. Here are four things I think every student should know about campus governance. Now, university governance affects students' lives, from raises in student fees to the introduction of new policies like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and a tobacco-free campus. The decisions from student government, faculty senate, and ultimately the university's governing board all have an impact on students' daily lives. Students have an opportunity to participate in this decision-making process to ensure that the outcomes serve their interests. Therefore, to help students increase their participation in campus decision-making, here are four things every student should know about university or campus governance. One, the Board of Regents governs a university. Two, the student government informs the board and advocates for student interests. Three, and to make a difference, advocates must first win student government support. And four, the advocate strategy should be to win the board's intervention into campus affairs for the sake of its cause. At the end of this presentation, students should have a basic understanding of campus governance and a pathway for success in student activism. In this video or in this presentation, I'll identify the four things students need in order to participate in campus governance. I'll define the term campus governance. I'll also identify who's in charge of the university, what the role is, what student government's role is, and also an effective strategy for campus activism. Like I said, by the end of the presentation, student listeners should have a basic understanding of campus governance and a pathway for success in student activism. So let's get started. Now, first, let's ask the question, what is campus governance? When I say the term campus governance, I'm referring to the concept of how the university manages itself as it pursues its mission. Okay, now in concrete terms, it also refers to the university's organizational structure with which students may already be familiar, such as the governing board, namely the Board of Regents, the university president, university administrators, faculty senate, college deans, department heads, and finally, student government. So when I say the term campus governance, it refers to the heads of authority over the campus and their specific spheres of responsibility and how they exercise authority. Again, campus governance refers to the concept of how the university manages itself and expenses or exercises its authority as it pursues its mission for the university. Okay, so that's what campus governance is. Now, as far as the four things students need to know in order to increase their participation in campus governance, the first is that the Board of Regents governs the university. The University of Texas at Tyler is a public university, the publicly established board known as the UT System Board of Regents, or otherwise known as the governing board, or just the Board of Regents. This board has final authority over the university, not only just the local university itself, but also the 8 other academic institutions in UT system, such as UT Austin, UT El Paso, and UT San Antonio, or the 4 medical institutions, such as UT MD Anderson and UT Southwestern. From operations to finance to academics to student life, the board oversees it all, everything short or under the law. If a student wishes to know who holds final authority over the university, then the answer is Board of Regents. And that's the first thing that students should know, is that the Board of Regents governs the university. Now, number 2, student government's role is to advocate for students' collective interest and to inform the board of the student body's consensus opinion. Now, when I say consensus, it does not mean, the word does not mean student government must represent every extremist or outlying view in the student population. Rather, it means the general or the consensus view. For example, such as the consensus view about the quality of cafeteria food, or the consensus view about the sufficiency of nighttime lighting along a pedestrian walkway. Whatever the consensus view, student government's job is to advocate for the students' collective interest and to inform the board of the student body's consensus view. That was number two. And that's number two. That's the second thing that students need to know, is that student government's role is to advocate for students' collective interest and to inform the board. Number three, the third thing that students need to know in order to increase their participation in campus governance is that to be successful, advocates must first win student government support. Now, in higher education governance, the student body is the only student organization that has the board recognizes to represent the student opinion to the board. That is, it's not the Society for Mechanical Engineers, not Delta Gamma or Greek Life, and not the protesters with posters and megaphones on campus sidewalks. It is only student government. Therefore, if a student government wishes to access campus decision makers for the sake of his cause, namely for the sake of namely to plant a community garden, to reduce student tuition, or to build additional parking, then he must first win over his student government. Now, this is because the student government is the head of the student body. It alone speaks to the board on the student body's behalf. Therefore, if a student advocate wishes to successfully sway campus decision makers for his cause, he must first win over student government. To access campus authorities, an advocate must first win student government support. And that's point number three, that in order to be successful, an advocate must first win student government support. Now, finally, number four, the fourth thing a student needs to know, or students need to know in order to increase their participation in campus governance, is that student advocates should first try to get the Board of Regents to intervene for their cause into campus affairs. Now, whether this is for a community garden, or to build new parking lots, or for later library hours on Fridays, an advocate's strategic goal must be to win the board's intervention on behalf of his cause. Now, why is this? This is because the board, as the university's highest authority, can override students' opponents when they stand in opposition to the student agenda. So, for example, the student government says it needs new parking lots, but the administration declines to construct new parking, then the board can override the administration and instruct it to build the new parking lots anyway, because the students said so. Another example is if the student government says it wants more kale in the cafeteria menu, or it wants to plant a community garden, and the administration declines, then the board can override the administration and instruct it to add more kale and to permit a community garden. As the university's highest authority, the board can override campus opposition that would otherwise be insurmountable to students on their own. Therefore, since the students need the board's support and intervention for final success, then an advocate's ultimate goal should be to get the board to intervene on his behalf. And that's point number four. In order to be successful, students should try to get the Board of Regents to intervene on their cause's behalf into campus affairs. Now, in conclusion, university governance affects students' lives. Therefore, to help students increase their participation in campus decision-making, here are four things every student should know about university governance. Number one is that the Board of Regents governs a university. Number two, that student government informs the board and advocates for student interests. Number three, to make a difference, advocates must first win student government support. And number four, an advocate's strategy must be to win the board's intervention. Students who understand these 4 points will have an introductory understanding of how campus governance works and will also know how to participate in it. In fact, they might even change a few things too. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening. I'm James Hescock.